All right, hello, good morning everyone. A warm welcome to you to the second day of the first ever Trailhead DX Salesforce Developer Conference. We had a very impressive lineup of sessions and keynotes for you yesterday. I hope you were both inspired and entertained. Today is no different. We have an impressive lineup of sessions. We hope you learn a lot, you get inspired, and you mingle with your developers as you learn more about the Salesforce platform. Thank you for joining me today. In this session, I'll be talking about the Lightning developer experience in the Forcecom IDE. My name is Nick Chen, and I'm a lead software engineer on the Platform Developer Tools team. Now, my team is responsible for the Dev Console, the Forcecom IDE, and the Apex debugger. Now, speaking of the Apex debugger, we have a new feature lined up for you. It's about ISV debugging. So if you're an ISV and you've always wanted to debug your managed package in your subscribers org, well, you can do that. I'm just going to give you a sneak peek about that. We're going to have a webinar where my product manager, Greg Wester, and Ross Baker will be talking about it later this summer. But today we're focusing on Lightning. All right, go ahead and clap. That's good. But today we're focusing on Lightning, and I'm really excited to introduce you to a set of tools that we've developed to make it easy for you to develop Lightning fast on the platform. These are the same set of tools that we use internally. We have shared it with our developers internally, and they like it. You may be wondering, well, does Salesforce use Lightning internally? And the answer is yes, we do. We're excited to share this with you, and let's go ahead and get started. As with all presentations at Salesforce, we always have to preface it by saying the forward-looking statements. There's lots of text there, so I don't expect you to read everything. Let me summarize it for you. Today, I'll be showing a lot of new and interesting features that are yet to be available. So if you're making any purchasing decisions, please base them on things that are already available today. All right. So let's talk about Lightning. What makes Lightning great? I'm really inspired by Lightning. I was attending some of the sessions yesterday and learning a lot of things. For those of you who are new to Lightning, and that's completely okay, I saw the stats. We had 2.8 million new developers on our Salesforce platform. These are active developers on our Salesforce platform. So it's an ever-growing number. So what makes Lightning great? Lightning is a modern framework for building single-page applications on both mobile and desktop. This means you can build compelling apps that delight your customers, and you will render beautifully on your cell phone, on your watch, and on your desktop machine. All right. Lightning is based on a new concept called component-oriented programming. For those of you who are new to it, don't worry. We have a lot of sessions covering this, and I'll be talking a bit about it in my talk as well. There's a whole new way of thinking about stuff. Instead of just building and writing code from scratch, we highly encourage you to go ahead and mingle with your fellow developers and take components that they have built on the App Exchange and plug and play it onto your own application. This allows you to do really rapid development, and it gets you from inception of idea to product really, really quickly. What makes Lightning great is also its foundation. As a developer, something that's true to my heart is how things are built underneath it, and Lightning stays true to this. It's built using open source technologies and industry standards. Some of you may have heard of the term Aura. Aura is the open source framework that powers Lightning. Salesforce built it, and it's used underneath it all for Lightning itself. And we'll see a bit about Aura in this presentation. So when I say open source technologies, what do I actually mean? Well, it's built using the technologies that you know and love, HTML5, JavaScript, CSS3. This has two key implications, and they're really positive implications. Firstly, Lightning plays nicely with existing open source libraries, and we'll get to see why this is a very important feature. Secondly, it plays nicely with existing tooling support in IDEs, and this is something that I leveraged while I built a new version of the Force.com IDE. So let's talk a bit about tooling support for Lightning components. Back in 2014, when we first introduced Lightning, our team built out the developer console. And this is a very easy IDE that's web-based for you to use to start developing in Lightning. You'll see some of this when you go over to the demo stations over at the village. There's nothing to install. You go into your org, click on it, and it's right there. It's easy to start creation of a new thing, edit it, and everything else. Along the way, all our tooling partners, any tooling partners in the audience with us today? Oh, we have one. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Our tooling partners have done a fabulous job of introducing and enriching the ecosystem of all the tools that you can choose to develop Lightning with. We have the whole gamut, spanning simple text editors to full-fledged IDEs to more web-based IDEs. In 2016, our team is completing the loop by adding Lightning support now in the Force.com IDE. So for those of you who have not used the Forcecom IDE before, it is a set of Eclipse plugin, and it's built on top of the powerful Eclipse platform. It has many, many features. It allows you currently to edit Apex, Visual Force, and various metadata types. And today, for the first time, we are introducing powerful new features to help you develop with Lightning. We have a multi-page editor that neatly handles all your files in your Lightning bundle. We have a built-in documentation browser, outline view and open dialogues to help you quickly navigate between files, integration with existing tools, both internal and external, and we have smart completions for your components. Now, these are just the top 5 that I'll be talking about. There are many, many more features, and I actually encourage you to go try it. We'll be pushing this out in the beta channel so you can give us feedback on this. Now, it's very easy for me to just talk about this, but I think it'll be more fun if I show you how I actually build an app with these tools. So let's go ahead and let me talk about the face detection app demo. So what's this demo about? Well, when you're at a conference, in an awesome conference such as Trail at DX, you're going to be taking a lot of photos, right? You'll be taking stuff, and I know there's a goatC hashtag going on Twitter where you're going to take a photo with the goat that's over at the village there. You're taking a lot of photos, and wouldn't it be nice if you could do something with those photos? Well, the face detection app allows you to drag and drop your photo onto your Salesforce org, where it will automatically detect the faces there and allow you to crop it and assign it to your contact of choice. All right, so with that, let's switch over to my laptop where I'll do a live demo. All right, what you see here is an app that I've written. It's called the Face Detection app. The look and feel is styled using the Salesforce Lightning design system. It's a very simple interface. I'm just go down here, I click this, and drag a photo up there. Now in a few seconds, it's going to pop up. And after that, it's going to recognize the faces there. So I can talk here, and it's Mr. Nathan Williams, and he works at Salesforce. And then I can click, and it will crop it, and create a contact for you. Very, very simple. Here's Miss Jane Doe. Oops. And she works at Salesforce too. I can double click and create something for you right there. And of course, this is a facial detection app. So like all AI-based systems, it's bound to make mistakes. So you can see here, this is John Smith, and this is John Smith's necktie that has been recognized as a face. So I can go ahead and do a necktie incorporated. This is why when I view AI, I think of it as assistive intelligence. It's a way to help make your task easier. It's not going to take over all your jobs. It's not going to commandeer everything. You still need the human element to it. But anyway, what I want to show you here is the first key point in my talk. Lightning is based on open source technologies. I built this using an open source JavaScript library called tracking.js. Salesforce has not yet introduced an image processing library, but you can go ahead and use existing open source technologies to build very powerful apps today. All right, I'm going to switch back to the slides and give you an idea of how I built this app before I show you the code for building it. So this is my face detection app. And the important thing to realize about building stuff with Lightning is that you'll be using a lot of components. And I'll be decomposing this to show the components that I play today. So the face detection app, at the top level, you have the app itself. As you switch over, you're going to introduce all the different components. So the first component I have is called the drop zone. This is where I drag and drop my photo and put it onto there. I also have another component called the contact list, which will show my contacts once they're actually created. So how do all these components communicate with one another? Now, in the traditional object-oriented programming style, you sort of know about different components. That's what we call a very tightly coupled architecture. It means it's really difficult to extend and evolve. Instead, what we do is we use events. So when I drag and drop something onto there, onto the drop zone, it broadcasts an event. And anyone who's interested in listening to that event can participate in it. To give you a more concrete example, imagine someone here is in the audience, so Greg is there. So let's say I'm signaling something and say, oh, there's a nice offer going on. And say, Greg, take advantage of this offer. This limits it to only Greg being the only person who can take advantage of it. Instead, if I just broadcast and say, hey, everyone, there's an offer going on here. Anyone who is interested can go ahead and participate. And this is the idea here with communications with events. You can plug and play all the components, and they can interact together. All right? So now what happens once I broadcast this event? Something's going to listen to it. In this case, I have the photo component who is listening to it, displaying the photo. And when I hover over it with my mouse, it's going to show me the hello. All right? And when I click or double click or whatever interface I choose, it's going to broadcast another event here, which says a photo, a contact has been created. Go ahead and crop it and sends this over here. The contact list is now interested in listening to the event. So we will see in code in just one moment how all these components play together. So I'm switching back to my machine. And I'm going to show you the Forcecom IDE. All right, this is the Forcecom IDE. You see, it looks just like the Forcecom IDE that you know and love. Right here, if you go in and zoom in, I'll zoom in a bit here, you see Aura. Remember what I said earlier, Aura is sort of the name of the open source framework. We have kept parts of it in our framework. So when you expand here, you see the list of components that you have. So one thing you have is, if you notice about development with Lightning, is that you have lots and lots of components. Don't let that scare you. Do not be worried about the components. Embrace those components. We have tools to help you make sure that you can interact with all of them. As I'm talking about this, let me introduce my top favorite features. So if you've used other tools right now for developing with Lightning, one of the things that you may notice is that you have this proliferation of tools. So I'm going to go ahead and expand all of this. You have all these files there, right? This is kind of unwieldy. If you're a new programmer, you're looking at it, it's like, lots and lots of things. And when you're browsing, what's going to happen is that you're going to open all of this. And very, very quickly, you see that all your edited tabs are filled out, right? This is a common critique we've heard about Lightning, is that after a while, my editors are all filled up. Well, let me introduce you to the first feature that helps you solve this and elevate this issue. We have introduced a multi-page bundle editor, so that when I click now on this guy, the component file for one of my components, it opens neatly here, and I will zoom in, you see all the different tabs you have at the bottom. Very, very easy. You don't have to worry about all the proliferations of files. And if you click between each of them, you can switch between the controller, the helper, the renderer, and the CSS. So I really like this feature. Now I can edit my files easily without it cluttering everything else, okay? So let me introduce the next feature. When you're working with Lightning, again, because of all the components that you'll be embracing, you need a quick way to navigate between them. One thing that you can do is, of course, you can leave your keyboard and click on each of this, but this is kind of tedious. So for that, we introduce the outline view. Go ahead and open it here, and it takes up this pane on your right-hand side of the screen. I'm going to zoom in a bit just so that you can see. You notice that it's also kind of intelligent. It knows about the different elements in your component markup. So if I click on Photo ID, it switches over immediately to there. So it's really easy for you to navigate. If you're going to jump to a function, go ahead and jump to it, and it's smart enough. Now, one of the critiques you may have is that the outline view is awesome, but on a small screen, such as the one that you're seeing on screen, it's taking up about a third of my screen. And that's precious screen estate that I can use to do my coding. Well, we can close this, and I can show you another feature here called the Quick Outline View. So if I hit Command-O or Control-O, it's going to open this right here in your editor itself, and you can use the arrow keys to navigate between them. Okay? And if you just type, for instance, crop face, it filters and it jumps over to the function itself for you. So we think these features will make it easy for you to navigate between all your different components. Another thing that we have to let it be easier for you to navigate is this feature where we call Open Aura, Lightning Components. You can click on it, and it brings up a smart dialog where I can type in and say, face hello. It will jump to this one. Open it again, and go Image Analyzer, it opens it nicely for you. So all these features that I've shown so far is to make it easier for you to navigate between all your components. So don't worry about having lots and lots of components. We have all the tooling here to help you do it. Now, another thing that I want to show you is the built-in documentation browser. So previously, when I was working on Lightning, what I used to do is I have to split my screen as such. And then I have to go, oops, my mistake, and bring up an Aura documentation browser right here on the left-hand side of my screen, right? This is what we usually have to do. Today, we no longer have to do that. I'm going to introduce the built-in documentation browser. So now when I hover over anything, it shows the documentation there in line. Very, very easy, no longer having to flip between your browser to work on different things. And of course, it works for Aura components, and it works for different things such as built-in tags as well. And if you like it, and you don't want just the documentation to show up when you're hovering, you can invoke it and say Lightning doc. And you get a dedicated tab at the bottom so that when you click on something, it's right there for you. All right? Very, very easy features. We think these make your life much, much easier as you're developing on Lightning. All right, so let's get started with building the app. I have some of my components ready pre-baked here, but I need a top-level application to sort of tie it in together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, right-click, and say New Lightning Bundle. And I'm going to call this the Face Detection app. And instead of a component, it's going to be an application. So what is the main difference between an application and a component? The application is the thing that contains all the components and glues them together. So this is the top-level application. Go ahead and create that. Hit Finish. And right here, you see it created for you. This is the app. And it also goes ahead and creates the controller and helper for you. Skeleton code for them so that it's easier in the future for you. So I'm going to open this thing. And right now, it opens nicely in my editor. You have the controller and helper at the bottom. I'm going to use a little tool here. This is not bundled with the Forcecom IDE. It's just a tool that I use for demo purposes. It's going to go ahead and type in all the skeleton code for me here. All right, lots of things to see here, but let me just focus on the key ideas. The first thing we do is using Lightning Require. This requires the Salesforce Lightning design system, so it styles this thing and renders beautifully. Then we use grids so that we have a nice way to lay out things. And at the end, we're going to add my components here. But before I add my components, let me just show you what we have so far live on the app. So what I'm going to do is I've saved this locally, and this is right here on my MacBook. But I need to save it over to the org. So I come over here, and I do Forcecom save to server. And this now will save it over and propagate over to my org. Now if I go to Chrome, which is my web browser, it's going to load the face detection app. And you notice that there's nothing much going on here. It's just the banner. And that's because I've not included any of the components yet. So let's go ahead and include those components. I'm just going to quit out this one so I don't get confused. Come over here. I've placed a place marker here so I know what components to include. So the first one I'm going to include is face detection drop zone. Okay? So what this will do is add the drop zone there for me. And you notice that the spacing is a bit off. We've built in a formatter for you, so you can beautify source. It goes ahead and formats this nicely. So for people who really want, like me, who really like their code to look neat, we have all these things built in for you. Again, save it over to the server. Now if I switch over and reload this, you see the drag zone showing up here. Okay? So this is, what is the purpose of my showing you this? This is how we develop in Lightning. It's really easy. You really plug and play components and you do it iteratively. You introduce the top level application, then you slowly add all your components in. So at this point, I can go ahead and drag my photo in. But you notice nothing happens. And that's because the drop zone is broadcasting an event, but no one's handling it yet. So I need to add another component that will handle this event for me. Let's go ahead and add all those different components. Okay, one more here, and I need so I've added my image analyzer, which will take the photo and display it, and my context zone, which will actually show the context once it's done. And go ahead and beautify this one more time. Save it. Save to server. Okay. Now if I refresh this, drag and drop the image here, it should pop up. Right. Now if I hover over it, the face halos are not appearing yet. Let's work on that component next. And this is where I want to show you another feature, which is the auto-completion feature. Okay? So I have my face halo. I'm going to focus on here so you can see. The first feature is I want to show you auto-completion in markup language. So if I come here, I do aura attribute, and hit control space, you see it auto-completes it for me. And it knows that name is required, type is required. Description is not really required, but for the purposes of the tool, we've made it so that it's there for you because we think it's really nice to include descriptions of all your different things so that people can understand how to plug and play with your components. If you don't like it, go ahead and just remove it. No problems there. But this is really easy. And we have auto-completions for other things as well. If I were to do aura, hit control space, you get to see all the different things that we support. And of course, the building documentation that you see earlier is also available here. Very, very easy. You can now develop everything in the IDE itself. And we think you really find this useful. Okay. So we have auto-completions over in the HTML, the JavaScript land as well. So I come here, I'm just going to type this up. I can do name inputs, component, it understands fine. I'm going to tell it to look for my face name. Get v.value, split. And what I'm doing is just splitting, and this is a very simple code that says, I've typed in 2 words there, just split so I can get the first name and the last name. So the first name is going to be name inputs, position 0. Last name is going to be name inputs, position 1. My account name. Notice how I'm using all the auto-completion features to make typing much, much easier. And finally, we need the face data. So I would do helper, crop. And you notice it understands all the different things I have. It's not just things that are available through the Aura framework, it's things that I've written myself. So for instance, crop face is a function that I have in my own component, and it understands where it is because it knows it comes from my face hello component itself. Go ahead and click that. And boom, we're done. Okay. Now, yeah, you have a question? Line 3, good catch. There you go. So what I'm going to do, instead of risking and making another typo, I'm just going to uncomment the things that we have right here. Okay. Now, that's my controller. I did promise that I'll talk a bit about all the different things that you have in your Lightning component, because I know there are people who are new to Lightning. So let me spend a couple of minutes on that. When we talk about the different things here, like your markup, this is where you have markup to sort of contain the structure of your component, how it's going to look. So you're going to put text and say this is going to be a text field, this is going to be a UI form field, basically the look and feel. Then you've got your controller, which is going to store all your actions so that when you perform events on the markup itself, like you're clicking or navigating away, you can invoke a command control function here. Then your helper, this is where you store all the functions that you want to share across your controller and your renderer. Think of it as a way to share all the functionality between your components. Your renderer, we are going to talk about this. This is a fairly advanced concept. You usually do not need to plug in your own renderer. It lets you control the rendering pipeline of the component itself. So for instance, why would you want to do something like this? You may want to change how it's rendered so that you can reposition stuff. And that's the technique I'm going to use here. When the face hellos show up, I'm actually going to tell the component, I'm going to reposition you dynamically. CSS is where all your style sheets are. And this is normal CSS. It's worth showing that we have auto-completion in CSS too. So if you hit Control Space, it goes ahead and gives you all these different things. So auto-completion in your markup language, in your JavaScript files, and your CSS. So I'm going to complete this and go over to my renderer. Remember earlier I talked about we need to reposition the face hello? Well, we can go in here and do it. So I can just type in re-render. And you notice it's smart enough to know, oh, there's a re-render function. In fact, it's going to be smart enough to call the super re-renderer and puts your cursor here. Okay? In this case, I'm going to do helper, reposition, and you can see it understands it again. I'm going to do an after render. Okay? So you may be wondering, Nick, did you build in this thing into the Forcecom IDE? And the answer is actually no. We actually built in a functionality that was even more impressive than this, which was we allow you to use templates now. So if you go over to preferences, you can add your own templates to the system. So if there's any code snippet that you type frequently, you can go and easily add this here. I'll give you an example. So this is the templating system. You notice that I've added a few here for Lightning. So this means that when I type after render and hit Control Space, it goes ahead and does this for me. And you can see it understands some meta variables, such as cursor. So after typing this and auto-completing this, it goes ahead and puts it there for me. So another one here is re-render. Controller, you can use this meta variable called new name, so it positions your cursor there for you. So very, very easy. You are in total control of everything else. All right. So now coming back here, I've done my face hello, and that's everything ready for me. So let me save it over to the server. Let's make sure there are no errors. It looks good. I'm just worried that I may have fumbled and introduced a typo somewhere. I'll switch over here, refresh this, and at this point, when you drag and drop the image, your face hellos are going to appear as well. There you go. Build an app. We showed all the different things, and we used the Forcecom IDE to do it. All right, so I'm going to switch back to the Forcecom IDE because I have several other features to show you. So we talked about templates. There's another thing we can do, which is integration with external tools. Now, for those of you who have been in the session about Lightning Locker Service, it's a big deal that's coming here. And whenever you write your Lightning components right now, you want to make sure that they're Locker Service safe. So what I'm going to show you is how you can integrate with existing tools. If I go to the external tools configuration, come here, I can actually add an external program. All right, I'm going to zoom in to make sure everyone can see this more easily. So in this case, I've called it Lightning Salesforce CLI. For those unfamiliar with it, let me give a plug for a session that's coming up at 11:50 by my colleague, Josh Burke, who's going to talk about the Lightning Locker service. So I'm going to attend it too, because I am interested in finding out more about it. I hope that you join me there. So the Lightning Locker service is a way to protect your components so that when you plug and play them, you don't get a malicious one that could potentially hack your system. Right? So it's important to make sure that you conform to this. There are certain standards, some are a bit more stringent. So how you invoke this is you usually call it through the Heroku tool belt. And what you say is lightning lint, and you give it your workspace. So we go ahead and do that. Click run. And you see the integration down here. I can zoom in. And you can see most of my files are good, but it does warn me that there could be 4 potential errors. And I use the word potential because this is a linter, like any of the other JavaScript linters that you know, such as JSLint or ESLint. And what it's just warning you is that, Nick, I don't really understand the tracking.js library they have put in, so you could have some problems when you're trying to run this outside of Locker service. So this is a good warning. It just tells me I need to do a bit more investigation to make sure that my service and my components will run for people who are under the Lightning Locker service. We are going to give you a better tool for this when the Forcecom IDE officially releases. Right now, I just wanted to show you how you can sort of integrate with external tools that you have. Okay, so let me minimize this. I'm going to show you one last feature, and this happens to be my favorite feature for developing with markup languages. If you come over to face hello component, you see there are a whole range of attributes, right? Even with auto-completion, if I were to do something like this, I will still have to repeat the process several times. Let me show you a shortcut key. Bear with me with the syntax for a bit. I will explain what it is. If you do this, and you hit this. It's a bit cryptic, but what I'm saying is I want a tag, and then for those tags, I want these attributes, and they have the type integer, and I want 5 of them. If I hit tab now, it expands it for you. Very, very easy, especially when you have a lot of attributes, and there you have it. Now, here's the clincher about all this. We did not build this tool into Eclipse itself. This is an external plugin. Remember what I said about the power of using open source technologies and industry standards? This is what happens when you use it. You have a rich ecosystem of things that you can plug into your tooling support. This particular tool is called Emmet, and you can see it here. It's something that you can sort of have different features. You can expand abbreviation, wrap abbreviation, lots and lots of things. I hope you go ahead, check it out, install it. It'll make your coding much, much faster. Okay. So that's my demo. We're going to switch back over to the slides. So let me give you a summary of my top 5 favorite features again. Number 5 is the multi-page editor. You've noticed how when you're developing Lightning components, they have lots of files. Instead of proliferating all those files in your text editor, use this multi-page editor. It bundles everything neatly for you, so you don't have to lose all your screen estate. Then we have the documentation browser. No more having to open your IDE on one side and your browser on the other side to browse the documentation. We have it built in there right for you. It appears at your fingertips. We have it when you hover over it with your mouse, and we have a dedicated view at the bottom. Then the quick outline view. So you see how you can actually open the outline view on the right-hand side of the screen. We also enable you to sort of display it quickly in the text editor itself. Then the quick navigation dialog, very useful when you have lots and lots of components. Instead of using your mouse to hunt and pack for each one, open it here, and it's smart enough to understand which one's a component. Then we show integration with existing tools, and the one I picked was the Lightning CLI. Again, here's a shout out to my colleague, Josh Burke. He'll be talking about the JavaScript security with Lightning Locker Service at the Village Theater, and I realize the time is a bit off. It's not 11:30, it's 11:50. They just updated the schedule. So please join me and Josh when we're actually going to attend that. The other thing I showed is the template service. So you can go ahead and add your smart templates to your JavaScript so that when you type stuff and you have code snippets, just go through them and invoke them here. Of course, last but not least, my favorite features. Autocompletion, we have them in XML, we have them in JavaScript, we have them in CSS as well. All right. So here's the big question. When will this be available? Around August 2016, in version 37 of the Forcecom IDE. We'll be pushing small releases to the beta channel. If you're not familiar with the beta channel, it's just a way for us to get new features out to you quickly so you can try it and give us feedback so we can iterate on the process. Find out how to do this on the GitHub repository for the Forcecom IDE. So, what's next? I mentioned that we are capitalizing on the open source technologies, and it's only natural for us to go open source as well. So this is a big, big thing that we're doing. We're going to make sure this plugin is going to be open source so that other people can learn from this, especially our tooling partners. We like to collaborate with them more, and you get the benefit as well so that people can help and iterate on this. We're going to add new features. We're going to add smarter wizards. Right now, you can see the wizard is targeting components, everything else. We want it to be sort of bundle aware. So if you're in an event component or you're in an application component, it knows what are the things that you can add to your bundles. We're going to have smarter code navigation. What I've shown you is actually just the preliminary phase. Internally, we have code navigation that enables you to control click between your components and jump to one another. We're going to add that in. We're going to do SLDS. SLDS is the Salesforce Lightning Design System. We're going to make sure you can browse, have documentation for it, code assist, and linting for you. So it's going to make it really easy for you to design your apps with Salesforce Lightning Design System. Of course, we're going to add quick fix support so that when you have typos or markup, you should be just hitting Command 1 and it'll go ahead and give you suggestions on how to fix things. All right. None of this would be possible without the hard work of all the people in my team, so I want to give a shout out to all of them here. The face detection library uses tracking.js. It's open source and available on GitHub. It's not created by us, it's by an external third party, but you can go ahead and try that. It has a very nifty computer vision technology, so you can do many things like image recognition, face tracking, and everything else. And the Lightning support builds upon the rich ecosystem Eclipse. We use WST, which is the Web Standard Toolkit, JSDT, the JavaScript development tools, and Turn, which powers the auto-completion for JavaScript. And with that, thank you very much. So, let us know what you think. I'm Nick Chen. This is my Twitter handle. Greg Wester is there in the front row. And we would love to meet up with our tooling partners. Let us know what else we can provide to make it easier for you to provide a rich ecosystem for Lightning. Thank you very much. I hope you like the Forcecom IDE. Go ahead, enjoy the other sessions, and happy developing.